Hello and welcome to another episode of Vagabond VC. Today we're continuing our journey through Colombia's ecosystem. I met with Carlos Gutiérrez, who is a co-founder and managing partner of Simma Capital based in Bogota. Actually, Carlos and his partner Daniel Blandon were two of the first people I had ever met when I was starting this whole project. So they're good friends of mine and I really appreciate being able to reconnect with them. I'd actually gotten coffee with Carlos when I was in Bogota, but we recorded this interview when I was in Medellin, so it's conducted over Zoom. I hope you find his story interesting and inspiring when basically trying to fundraise during the pandemic for his first official fund. So without any further delay, let's jump in. All right, everybody. Excited to have Carlos Gutiérrez on the show today. He is the co-founder and managing partner of Simma Capital. They're an early stage venture fund located in Bogota, Colombia. Carlos, welcome onto the show. Thanks for being here. Excited to have you.
Hi, Seb, and hi to all your people in the podcast. And thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to start off with a little background about you. I don't think when people are growing up that they think to themselves, like, I want to be in venture capital. So how'd you find yourself in this industry? What'd you start off doing and how'd you get involved with startups and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think in Colombia, the venture capital ecosystem didn't even exist 15 years ago. So you're absolutely right. Well, since I was young, I started like a young entrepreneur. So I was the guy that sold pretty much everything in the school. So like bubble gum, brownies, pizza, sandwich, whatever you can imagine, I was trying to sell it. Then in the university, again, I tried a few business. I had a company that made events like music production. Also, I invested in a distribution of food and drinking beverage here in Colombia. And I made a few business. Most of them went broke. So I learned a lot. But yeah, I started more as an entrepreneur. And in the university, I found some people that think like me and they like it a lot of business. So we started to invest both in traditional business. So we started with Invex, that is like our private fund. At the beginning, Invex was to invest in traditional business, like I mentioned. So we bought an apartment, we invested in some offices, we invested in some stocks, and it just went with the current pretty much.
Yeah. So pulled your capital together. You got these like-minded people, maybe previous entrepreneurs as well, but at least focus on entrepreneurship. And you started investing in, like you said, traditional businesses. So maybe having an apartment that you can rent out or like some small, they use a term now called lifestyle businesses. So not necessarily people who are building these massive growing startups, but people just building small companies that they can just live off of. So maybe would that be kind of an accurate description of some of the companies you were investing in to start? Young entrepreneurs just doing small projects, or was it always a goal to get to like these huge, fast growing technology startups?
No, at the beginning, you're absolutely right. So there were more lifestyles companies and some stocks and some things like that. But yeah, traditional business in all the sense.
So how did you then get involved in the startup ecosystem? Because it's kind of a different world. And also, as you mentioned earlier on in Colombia, it was very nascent, right? So how did you pivot that business model to start focusing on more fast growing, scalable businesses with venture level returns?
Yeah, well, after a few years with this fund, some of our friends started to showing us opportunities to invest, and some of them were in startups. So we started to know the ecosystem, to know about these companies, about the opportunity and everything. And we decided to invest in a few of them. And just after I graduated from the university, I actually started working in a startup that it was called Formafin at the time, a marketplace for luxury items in Latin America. So it all it was put together pretty much for us.
Sure. Just kind of evolved through your network and just through your different activities into a startup focus. And that was Invex. And then now you're currently working at Simma Capital. So how did Invex turn into Simma? What was the evolution there?
So like I mentioned, a few years after we funded Simma, we started to invest in startups. We started to see a lot of opportunities in the space. So we decided to change all the fund from traditional investment to startups. So we started to liquidate and to sell the other assets. and invested all in startups. So after a few years, we had around 10 companies in the portfolio. We were lucky enough that we invested in an early stage in Rappi, that is the only unicorn in Colombia. So of course, it's a huge accomplishment. And the returns and everything were very big. So we were very excited about the topic. In that moment, I also started working in venture capital directly. I worked for Telefónica in their corporate venture capital here in Colombia. I was the financial director. So I was like pretty much all involved in the market. And we have an opportunity to sell some part of our investment in Rappi with a great return. And we decided we were going to quit our jobs with my partner, Daniel, that is also a partner in Invex. We decided that we were going to go full in venture capital. So we pretty much grabbed what we could from our investments in Rappi and in Invex, put it in Simma. We make a deck, all the investigations, everything, and we went out to seek more LPs.
Okay, so you and Daniel, you start Simma, you start doing the traditional venture capital model, you build your pitch deck, you start searching for LPs. And about when in time is this going on? Like what year, what month in time is this happening?
This is 2019, something around July or August. Daniel told me that I needed to quit my job in that moment, or he was just coming from jail from an MBA. So he told me that I needed to quit in that month, or he was going to get a job, and we were not going to do this. He was like, if you are not 100% here, I'm not 100% here. So it was an easy step.
So the pressure was on, and you start your fundraising process, and let's just say that's kind of in the late summer and fall of 2019. And when you and I actually first met in January of 2020, we were speaking at the time that you were still in the fundraising process. So let's talk through the initial fundraise of Simma Capital, how that process went, because you were still fundraising kind of when COVID hit, right? So how did building that first traditional venture capital fund, what was the process like? And did COVID present any roadblocks, and where does it stand now?
Okay, so actually in the midsummer of 2019, we were just starting the company. So, the structuring of the company, where it's going to be the address, the country, everything. At the beginning of 2020, we started the actual fundraising. So we were fundraising for like 3 months, something like that, and then COVID hit. So it wasn't a great time at the moment. We decided, like after 10 or 15 days of COVID, we decided to put a pause on the fundraising, because most of the reunions that we had program were in person, and asking money is a very hard, is normally very personal thing. So most of the people wanted to see us in person, even if they know us in the past. They wanted to have the reunion, they wanted to have the time with us. So at the beginning, we decided to put it in pause. We only have signed a few people in the first 3 months, and we stayed in pause for like almost 3 months. And at the end of those 3 months, we were going crazy, because we didn't have jobs. We were pretty much not doing anything. I don't know. I just saw all the movies and all the series in Netflix.
Yeah.
But like all everything.
The whole catalog.
Pretty much. So we decided to start talking with people again, and with some advisors. They said that we should keep going, that COVID was not going to be a 3 months or 6 month thing. It was going probably to be 1 year, 2 year. We have seen that now. So we decided to put the gas again, and we're starting raising again. Also, there was a point in the COVID that most of the traditional business were having trouble, but most of the technological business were having a huge impact. So a lot of adoption from the technology side, all the payments went through the roof, online sales and all of that. So of our investments in Invex were doing pretty well, and the ecosystem was looking even more attractive at the moment. So we decided just to go all in that moment.
So you ended up doing things remotely, you raised your fund, and you're currently actively investing, right? So are you currently operating off of a thesis? And if so, what is that thesis?
Right now, we're investing in seed and Series A startups. We are agnostic in terms of the sector, but we prefer fintech, proptech, SaaS, and health. We are focused in Colombia and Latin America, and we put tickets between 100K, 150K per company. So normally we are not the leaders. We are co-investors in the round. And that's pretty much our thesis. It's actually pretty flexible, but it's because in some sense, the ecosystem in Colombia is still very small. So let's say if you choose only one sector, two sectors, it's a little bit hard to get 30, 25 companies in those sectors that you think are going to be very, very big. So yeah, we decided to have something more flexible. We have a great network in Colombia, so we have access to pretty much all the sectors here. So it was also to get the best opportunities. It doesn't matter in which sector.
And based on that, is there a recent investment that you can highlight that you're excited about?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm actually excited pretty much about all our portfolio right now. We have 8 investments in Simma at the moment. We are invested in some great companies. We are invested in one Doc3, that is a telehealth company here in Colombia, in Tributi, that is like the TurboTax here in Colombia. We are also in Melon, that is like a backend for the delivery, packaging, picking, and all of that for the e-commerce companies. We are also invested in Yumi, that is the super app of Venezuela, Passport, Get Passport, that is a banking as a service in Mexico. We are also invested in Gabriel, that is a security company in Brazil, also in Ubits, that is a edtech here in Colombia. But of all of them, the company that I'm more excited personally at the moment is Bold. Bold is a MPOS system company that is like a kind of a Square in the beginning. So all the systems that you need to pay with credit card, or you need a link, so you can send it via email or WhatsApp or everything. And they are all of the payment services for the SMEs.
No, fantastic. That's really exciting. And also just a lot of different, like you mentioned, being sector agnostic, just a lot of different areas that you highlighted there that you've already invested in so far. One thing that's really interesting is that there's always a non-linear approach into venture capital, right? A lot of people come from many different backgrounds. Some people are purely finance. Some people run startups and get into it. Some people come from journalism. You were previously an entrepreneur, like you mentioned. So how has that experience shaped the way that you approach your current role and how you look at startups, how you determine criteria that you want to invest in? How has it shaped your view on how you approach venture capital?
Yeah, before I jumped to venture capital, I worked in 3 startups, as you mentioned. It was a pretty awesome experience. The opportunity to be operational. In most of those startups, I was helping with the fundraising, with the operational part. I was pretty much the financial guy. So also helping with the fires and all the problems that, of course, is 24 hours in each of the startups. But being operational is something very interesting because you can really feel the pain points of the entrepreneurs. So you understand a little bit more about how they think, about what they are missing, about what they need help, and all of they are going in their normal life to try to make it in the company. So all the sacrifices and everything. And I think it is a very important part because it gives you another view of the company and of the entrepreneurs. And it's not only, a normal company, a normal investment. You know that these people is making sacrifice with their money, with their time, with their family time. So I think it helped me a lot.
Sure. Yeah. It gives you a different perspective. Absolutely. And when you're considering investment, like what's something that you're very specifically looking for in a company? Are you purely metrics focused? I mean, at your stage, obviously early stage, there sometimes isn't enough metrics to look at, right? So what's something that you're really kind of, when you're in a like a pitch session with a startup, or something you're really trying to, like data you're trying to gather to make an investment decision?
We like to say that we invest in great teams in awesome industries. So normally what we look for is an awesome team that they have, let's hope, experience in the sector, that they have the right knowledge, some difference in the team. So let's hope a woman in the team and more than one person. So we're looking for 2 to 3 persons in the team, things like that. But if they are not working in some very big market, I'm sorry, but the opportunity is very limited. So we like to think it like that. The first thing that we see is the team, but definitely they need to be in a market that we see huge opportunity.
Yep. So can the team execute, and do they have at least even the ability to scale? So it has to be in a scalable market. No, that's great. So let's zoom out a bit beyond Simma and look more at the ecosystem that you guys are in. So when you and I first met in January of 2020, it was a very different time. Who knew how much things would change, right? So let's think about like the Colombian. We can even actually talk about the broader Latin ecosystem as well. But what are some of the things that have changed there over the last couple of years in terms of the startup ecosystem and the venture capital ecosystem as well?
Yeah, well, no, the ecosystem is growing at a very, very fast pace. You can see that the people is starting like to believe in the ecosystem. Is not just seeing it like something like, I don't know, a hobby of a person or something super risky or like a bubble. They are starting to see that there's real an opportunity there. There have been a lot of noise lately in Colombia. Rappi raised another big round. Abby raised 100 million from investors like Jeff Bezos. Adi, that is from Colombian entrepreneurs, also raised a lot of money. So it's a very big moment in the ecosystem here. And I think a big part of that is the evolution of the ecosystem. And we are seeing that in this moment, the quality of the entrepreneurs is super high in Colombia, because a lot of people with MBAs or that they were living in other countries and all of that realize that there is a big opportunity. So they now have the thinking that starting on a startup is a real option. You know, like a few years before, everybody was thinking like, no, I need to work in the bank or whatever, like in very traditional works, and they didn't see the opportunity here in the startups. But right now they see it. So I see a lot of great people with a lot of good intentions and qualities that they are starting to raise their first round or their company.
So it's become more legitimized. And you mentioned an influx of external capital and, more people actually starting companies. So that's all positive news. That's all positive trends. Are there still any roadblocks that entrepreneurs are facing in Colombia or even the broader Latin ecosystem that need to be addressed?
Yeah, there are a few still roadblocks. First of all, the legal structures in Colombia and in most of the countries in Latin America are still very, very old. So they are not updated to the needs of the entrepreneur of nowadays. So most of the companies that are growing very fast, they just move their headquarters to the States, to Delaware, to another country. But I think some of that is missing in LATAM. Also, even as the ecosystem is exploding, most of the capital is still from the outside. So most of the capital in Colombia, it comes from the United States. And I don't think it's gonna change. Like we're gonna invest more than the States in BC. That's not gonna happen. It's just logical because of the size of the economies of the countries. But I do think that many of investors in Colombia are missing still the opportunity to invest in this kind of business. So I think there is a lack in investors from the countries within.
Yeah, that's that stuff can take, I don't want to say like it's generational, but in terms of like startup life, it can be, because sometimes what you'll see is founders who have previously had a successful company. Let's just use Rappi as an example, right? Let's just say Rappi eventually exits. Founders who started the company, grew the company, might not want to, or not necessarily the founders per se, but maybe like early stage employees, top level executives, then leave to start either another business or sometimes become venture capitalists themselves. So sometimes it's a matter of waiting for past successes, right? Everyone knows like PayPal Mafia. Now half of them went on to become investors anyway. So it's just a matter of those opportunities coming in Colombia and Latin America as well, right?
No, I totally agree, and we are seeing that example that you just said. We say the same of the PayPal Mafia. We say the same of the Rappi Mafia. Many great entrepreneurs right now came from Rappi. So Fabian from Frubana, Andres in Tributi, the people in Cheaper. There are like, I don't know, like 8 great companies that came from Rappi. Those entrepreneurs are also investing like angel investors, but like crazy. So the people of Truora also, they came from Rappi, and they are great angel investors, and they are doing the job that you are mentioning. They're like the first guys to push the ecosystem in the capital sense and in the entrepreneurs. So yeah, there's a huge impact from Rappi in that sense.
And you also mentioned the legal framework, which I think is pretty much the case in everywhere where technology and innovation always outpaces legal structures and policy, right? So are there things that maybe Simma Capital directly, but even broader, the venture capital ecosystem is doing to help influence government decisions and policymakers to help make more business-friendly regulation?
Yeah, there's a private fund association in Colombia, like pretty much in all the countries. That is, the name is called Capital, and yeah, they have that in their agenda. So they are helping the government to make the right decisions, and they propose some things. And I think we are going in the right way, but we're still doing it very slow.
Okay, and then let's think as we get towards the end here, let's think more about the future, right? So we know where Colombia has been trending over the last couple of years and where Latin America has been trending, and we know where we stand today. So where do you see the ecosystem, say, 5 years from now? What's going to emerge, some of the trends, maybe some of the hot sectors? What's if you had to pull out a crystal ball, where do you see it going?
Yeah, no, I think the ecosystem is gonna be booming. I think the huge change is gonna be that we're gonna have some exits. So first of all, I see the IPO of Rappi in those 5 years that you mentioned. I see some companies getting to the unicorn status. So some companies like Bold, I hope, Avi, La House, Trubana, and others. So I see that there's going to be a lot of movement in the ecosystem. And many of those companies, as I mentioned, they're going to have exits or partial exits for their employees. And that is going to nurture a lot of the ecosystem. We're going to have a lot of new entrepreneurs with a lot of experience working in these companies, and a lot of angel investors, and let's hope some venture capital managers with new funds. So I think it's going to be a very exciting time. I think the ecosystem in Colombia is still very young, but the next 5 years, I think is going to be a huge, huge change for Colombia, and not only for Colombia, probably for the region. We are seeing some great companies in Brazil and Mexico that are just ready to make the jump for the IPO, and probably next year or in 2 years is going to be we're going to break the record of IPOs in these regions.
Great. Yeah, actually, from everything I'm seeing, I 100% agree with you on that trend. And I think it's extremely exciting. I mean, well, that's why I'm here, right? So if other investors or startups looking for investment want to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to reach you?
Yeah, well, first we have our webpage. So simmacapital.com. Simma is with SIMMA, and capital the normal way. And also, of course, they can look for me in LinkedIn. So Carlos Felipe Gutiérrez. And everybody that just wants to chat, wants to know a little bit more about the ecosystem, or wants to look for some synergies, or maybe for an investor in their startup, yeah, I'll be happy to connect with all the people that I can.
Great. And I will add all those links into the show notes so people can get in touch with you directly. And that concludes this. Carlos, you've been a fantastic guest. It's always good seeing you, my friend. I think you have a really unique perspective on the Colombian ecosystem. I'd love to see the work that you and Daniel have done here, and really excited to see what you guys are going to continue doing with this fund. So thank you once again for being a part of the program. And until next time.
Thank you, sir, for your time. And well, I hope it helps somebody.
Oh, it will. Trust me, I'm sure it will. All right, I'll see you.